Boys, pro gadget number 1 is under the cloche. What can it be?
It's a plunger.
I'm impressed already.
Are you?
I'm just guessing it's a press of some sort.
So today we're putting some pro kitchen gadgets in front of our Chef Ben and normal Jamie. Now these are either used in professional kitchens or marketed to professional chefs.
I feel like it could be a fruit press.
Yeah. Or it's going to segment something. Like, is this how they make Terry's chocolate orange? They just put a whole ball of
That
chocolate.
would make sense because it doesn't have a core.
Yeah, exactly, and you just segment it.
This item, single-use item, very prominent in certain kitchens, one of which are our friends, the boys from Fallow, who use this.
Oh God, they put like a duck's head in it or
Oh, I do know what this is in that case because I've had this very dish. It's absolutely delightful. Does this make blooming onions?
Absolutely correct. This is the blooming onion cutter, specifically designed for creating blooming onions ready to coat and fry. Just one stroke turns a colossal onion into a flowering favourite.
That is such a big piece of machinery for one very bespoke, specific item.
However, if you've been to Rowe and had their blooming onion, and if you've sat at the kitchen table and you can see how many the chefs prepare for the restaurant, dozens every night, the markup on the price of an onion versus what you pay in the restaurant, this machine pays for itself.
That point is even included in their marketing, in that this is created for profit. So it's a very impressive result, which would usually take a lot of time by hand. Is that correct, Ebbers? How would you make a blooming onion with a knife?
Same way, but you've got to keep the root intact and then you want to cut into it in multiple ways. Now, the way these blades are shaped, I presume, means the root remains intact and you end up with something that looks funny and floppy that you can then batter and pan and fry.
Shall we bloom an onion
Yes.
and then batter, pan and fry one?
Yes.
So boys, we've given you 2 chef's onions, some hot oil, you've got some seasoned flour and some dredging batter. Let's give it a go.
So we put that in that way.
And then the handle's on your side. Not all the way through, because you only want it to cut to about here.
I just want to, look, that just a little finger.
Very, very sharp.
Very, very
blades.
sharp.
Bit more than that, bit more than that, bit more than that, bit more than that, bit more than that.
How much pressure are you applying, Jay?
Still just,
Okay.
I think I'm pushing more pressure here.
Yeah.
Maybe there? Yeah, let's see what happens.
Right.
No, so now you can remove the ring. There you go.
Right.
Maybe we go a fraction more.
Fraction more.
So it really blooms. Lovely. What you essentially have now is lots and lots of layers. Have we gone deep enough? Yeah, I think we have. Now here's the secret. At Rowe, they then steam that. So that it's really soft and lovely and it becomes all floppy. And because it's all floppy, you can get all the batter and stuff in between each layer. Try the other onion.
Okay.
Not really put that one in the middle.
Well, the onion isn't completely spherical. We're not fully convinced yet.
No.
Because it didn't go in the middle, it's now kind of wedged itself in. And because these are blades, I don't particularly want to get the fingers involved. I'm a bit disappointed. I feel like we should go again and get it right.
I see, it leaned straight away. As soon as you did that, it leaned.
I mean, this one's got a green heart, so I don't think this one's great either, because this one's almost like reshooting itself. But we'll get there.
What's it not doing that you were hoping for?
Well, this one lost an 1/8 on there. That one, we didn't go deep enough, and I just know that if you cook it like that, in that temperature oil, you're not going to get a nice, soft, sweet onion with the outside. But we try.
Let's give it a go.
So we dredge.
How popular are blooming onions that they need their own bespoke gadget?
I think they're quite popular at like sports games, because
Yeah.
they're basically like tear and share bread,
Okay.
but with in onion form. Then I'm going to lower it into the oil and possibly even leave it on
the
spoon so it doesn't touch the bottom of the oil pan. Lovely. And we'll give it 6 minutes.
Wow.
I mean, it looks awesome, doesn't it?
It looks great.
And like any awesome fried snack, like there could be a dozen different dipping sauces to go with this, and it's very celebratory tear and share for something that's pretty bog standard as ingredients.
But you could also, I'm guessing, add spice. I'm thinking into a batter. You can change the flavours in the batter.
13 herbs and spices.
It's like an onion nacho dish.
In that sense, it is tear and share.
Oh, yes. Ah, fantastic.
It's all the same flavour and texture of a great onion ring.
Very tasty. Quite difficult to do by hand.
Yep.
Because of the way an onion segments, you can do it by hand, but it's tricky. It's certainly tricky to get it that regular. But I think the more you get used to the machine, how far to push it, and then how to get all the flour and the dredge in between each layer, I think that's key, so that you have lots of tear and share. I would say it's very difficult to do this on a small scale. As in the amount of batter and dredge you kind of need, the amount of oil you need to fry it, it's an awful lot just to do one. It's no more to do 6.
So you've tried it, you've tasted the fruits of its labour. How much do you think we paid for the blooming onion cutter?
I imagine it's come from the other side of the world, where manufacturing is cheaper.
I think it's probably £90.
More than that, but I was going to say maybe 140.
£64 I paid for one of these.
Well, I eat my onions.
And I guess considering the onions we gave you are about 50 to 60p each, you can start to see a delicious sharing result, but with quite a lot of potential for markup.
Yes, the margins are good, but I think that's the same for so many of our favourite fried snacks. Original onion rings, fries or chips, you know, triple cook them, adds labour and process, but it's still the same cheap potato.
Yeah.
Well, boys, to get your final thoughts, I've got to ask the question. The blooming onion cutter, blooming marvellous or dreadful?
Well, you tried to slip that one past us.
I went very obvious,
Yep.
and I was embarrassed.
Yep.
But I feel like I followed it up with something equally as embarrassing.
If you want to make blooming onions, it's blooming marvellous. But I think you'd really have to know that you want to make blooming onions to make it worth your while.
As with all of these pro kitchen gadgets, they only do one thing, they do it very well. Of course you'd want to make blooming onions if you're buying one. I think it's blooming awesome.
Wow, one above marvellous. Let's move on to number 2. Okay, boys, number 2 is angry, so I haven't provided it plugged in. There is a cable down by your feet. Let's plug it in once you've lifted the cloche on it, had a look, and maybe given me a guess.
Do we need PPE?
You're going to PPE yourself if you aren't careful.
Right.
After you.
We had a warning sign from Mike and a warning sign from the back. Should we have a look at what's inside? I'm assuming it's a...
If you unscrew the bottom underneath the shaft, you can unscrew those to... That's it, and then it should just twist counterclockwise and then come off.
Oh dear. Right. So we've got blades inside.
Quad. Oh no, actually it's more than that. There's 6 blades inside.
Do you notice anything particular about the blades?
They're not particularly sharp,
Yeah.
but there are 6 of them at different angles, which means whatever goes in there will both shoot up, bounce back, and get cut in a different form. There's a twisty knobble on this side, which means once it's done, you can lean it forward.
So you're pouring something out.
And then, presumably,
This has got to be heating.
it gets hot as well.
Soup. Feels like an obvious choice, but not a
No, I think
correct one.
whatever needs blending is a lot harder than that. I think maybe spices.
Boys, this is the electric flour grinder, enabling you to grind grains into 500 to 300 mesh particles. And that is a particle measurement determined by the number of openings in a mesh screen per inch. So a very, very fine flour.
Okay. So this isn't doing any heating.
No.
That's
no.
just
the
to
motor.
power
That
the
is
motor.
just the motor.
Ooh.
So you have a timer on the side. Now, as soon as you turn the timer on, it goes.
Okay.
Okay. Just before you plug it in, and we give you some things to grind.
This is coming with a lot of caveats and warnings.
Very health and safety.
We're just making flour.
It's that simple. But we plugged it in and then went, what does this do? And so I just want to avoid that happening because I love you guys.
Oh, nice.
Would you like some stuff to grind?
Yeah.
You have some corn kernels and you have some, well, wheat grain. So you could make whole grain flour.
What mesh is that?
Yeah, this
gosh.
looks like a 300 mesh if you ask me.
I actually don't
Square inch.
The 180 swing actually enables you to move it as it's grinding to get a better grind. So you're able to
Swing away.
Grind
away.
and swing at the same
grind
time.
and swing, yeah.
Lovely. Do some wholemeal flour. Not going through the mesh yet.
Not yet. That was the experiment. That was the test.
Before and after. Let's do half a kilo. Lovely.
And just 30 seconds is all it takes to meet the sweet spot of the 500 to 300 mesh abrasive.
I mean, it's a decent. There's a decent gap in there, isn't there? 500 to 300.
Are you measuring?
Yeah, because that one is more than 50% more than the other.
Right, I'm going to plug in. Red light is on.
Language. P's and Q's.
I did not expect it to be that angry.
I told you.
High pitched and angry.
And you were
right.
like, why? You need a health and safety certificate.
Now we know, don't we?
We've had 1 second. Do another 29.
See what we got.
Oh my goodness.
We have whole grain flour. And the beauty, bear in mind, of whole grain is you've got all of the bran and the wheat germ in there. This is all the good bits. So it's not going to be completely, well, it would be if you carried on for another few seconds.
Yeah.
I mean, that's lovely wholemeal flour.
Yeah.
Even that has a slight texture to it. They're the bits of the wheat and the bran that didn't yet go through, and probably another 10, 15 seconds would do that. But actually,
That is flour.
pretty good.
That's really. It's so angry.
What I love is that it's just a huge amount of power of what's been done for millennia. Grinding grain into flour is such a basic foundation of human civilization, quite literally. And then here we are just doing it with the press of a button.
This is industrial, made specifically for bakeries, or actually maybe even a step before that in flour production houses, etc., etc.
And I wonder also, we've had the conversation before about flour being a dry store ingredient and it can just sit in your pantry for ages. But actually, fresh flour should be kept in the fridge and does have a shelf life.
What?
And the way it behaves and the way it tastes, if you're grinding your own and then cooking with fresh flour, you get an incredibly different result. And that's where you're now getting artisanal breads, bakers, and the ability to buy artisanal flour.
I did not know that.
What makes wholemeal or whole grain flour more nutritious is the wheat germ and the bran and all the natural oils, and it's those that go rancid first. So a white flour, a bleached flour, will have a longer shelf life, but it's still a fresh product.
Now, obviously, this is a smaller version of some of the industrial-sized machines that do similar things. It pulverizes the majority of dried materials, including grains, soy, corn, barley, rice, wheat, mung beans, coffee beans, spices, herbs, sesame, peanuts, walnuts, etc. Would you like to take a guess as to how much we paid for this machine?
I mean, to get a motor that powerful, I think £200.
I think knowing the motors on some of the machines we already have, the stand mixers, for example, I think it might be 300.
This was £125.
Oh, I'm overestimating all these pro gadgets.
We were way off.
I mean, they go up to multiple of thousands of pounds for the ones that we looked in. Vats were, that can handle 20 kilos at a time. But yeah, pretty cool. What are your final thoughts?
I mean, even if you looked at it from a non-pro perspective, as somebody who wanted to get into creating their own breads and wanted to take it that next step, 125 quid isn't a massive outlay for a hobby that you really want to
for a
perfect.
passionate.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, refrigerate your flour is what I've learned out of all of this. Obviously, you're going to want the question, aren't you? Are you swiping right on this grinder or swiping left?
Oh, I don't know which is the positive one.
Yeah,
right. So swiping right means
positive.
Accept.
Oh, I like it. Swipe right.
Swipe right to accept. I'll do that.
Accept. Boys, final gadget. Lift the cloche.
It's a big box with a... Ooh, that also looks angry.
It's less angry, but it has the potential to be very angry.
I think if you put your hand in there, I'd be very angry. That's lots and lots of blades.
Crikey.
Crikey indeed. It's very sturdy. Yeah.
Have you seen those videos online where people throw like a chair into something like that and you just watch it get crushed? Yeah, it's amazing.
Why don't you unscrew the top lid and lift it up?
Goodness blimey.
Those two bars, they pull out. So if you swivel them away from you, to me, and then the other one, the other side, the opposite way, Now, that unit lifts up, meaning that you can replace those things with different sized things.
That is
Slicing something.
serious, that, isn't
But
it?
what are you slicing that thin?
Boys, this is a meat slicer. Perfect for cutting fresh boneless meats like pork, beef, as well as soft vegetables such as peppers, cabbage, mushrooms, etc. It's also got a high pressure water jet included, so you can clean it afterwards. You just spray it with water. And the blades are interchangeable so that you can have different thicknesses of cut. That is 3.5 millimeters. So meat slicing, Ebbers, as a chef, why or where would this be used?
We, very recently, had a look at a manual meat slicer. So I think it's used if you want to do bacon, for example, or a slice of like stir fry meat. So put joints in, you get wafer thin slices for stir fry.
Carpaccio.
If you were to put, yeah.
Or in a sandwich shop.
Yes.
So I'm thinking particularly
Deli.
meat going in, like Cat's Deli in New York, but they have the one you go.
As opposed to doing one slice at a time,
Yeah.
you put it through and get 24.
Oh, right.
Would you like to give it a try?
Yeah, are we making a sandwich?
We have a top side of beef, so if you want to trim that just to ensure that it actually fits in, the manual says to put soft leaves through it in order to make sure it's nice and clean, so we have done that. Let's get some meat in.
I'll on you in.
Okay.
It did it.
So quick.
It did it.
Did it do it?
Yeah.
Let's have a look. What are the results? Oh!
Remarkably even slices of beef. So we've got sliced beef. What happens if we go in this way?
You're gonna make spaghetti.
Off.
It's effective, isn't it?
Minced beef. Arguably better than grinding.
Why?
It's slicing rather than grinding, so it's not doing any damage to the... Or is that better or not? In terms of the individual pieces of meat haven't been
Pulverized.
bashed around or squeezed out through an extruder.
It did it in half a
It's
second.
just done it in a fraction of slicing.
Cooked meats,
That's what I was
I
wondering
think
whether
would
maybe...
be more useful for my purposes.
Or cured.
Yep.
Cured pork,
Yep.
so it comes out as bacon. This slices is great because you've got it for hot pot, in really thin slices to go into hot pots. You've got really thin slices for stir fry, really thin slices for the grill. I also think because it goes around so quick and it pulls it in because the two wheels are doing that, so it's pulling it through. I think fish as well, oily fish, like a chunk of tuna or a chunk of salmon, you'd get very thin slices, almost for sashimi kind of style.
Would you like to know how much we paid for this machine?
It's aggressive, but it's not well built. I would say that like, it's flimsy in its accessories. It's not quality, but it's powerful and sharp.
250 quid.
240.
Jamie is £9 out. £259 is how much this cost.
Nine the other way. I'd have been one out.
I thought that was a very clever way around of doing that.
I mean, there's no denying that top side of beef like that is now at a nice thin consistency that you could marinate beautifully and stir fry. I think is a good way of upscaling cheap cuts of meat.
So the meat slicer, a meteoric marvel or an industrial injury waiting to happen?
I mean, it's a bit of both, literally.
It does the job.
Does the job.
It is so dangerous. You certainly wouldn't want to be doing it while you're wearing a tie. Or any loose clothing. Like it is a marvel, but I'm scared for it and the workplace it's in.
I think I agree. I think it's a meteoric marvel, but it also is an injury waiting to happen.
Well, over to you guys. What did you think? Let us know in the comments below. And if you've seen any other professional kitchen gadgets that you'd like us to try, let us know.